Gandalf is insanely strong in Lord of the Rings Rise to War, and in this video, we're going to walk through his talents, how you can unlock him, and more. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today I've got to break down Gandalf. I got him really late on my free-to-play account. I got him very early on my pay-to-win account. And I have to say that Gandalf exceeds expectations. He is a very, very strong commander, and perhaps I should say that he just lives up to his name. So in this video, I'm going to break it down. What does he do well? What equipment should you consider using on him? And of course, the very best talents. I do want to start, however, by calling out that he is not a man or elf or any of the races that you're typically used to. He is, and I believe this is pronounced Maiar. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at equipment. He does not qualify as men or man when you're picking different equipment types. The other thing I want to get into before talking about his talents and helping break those down is his trait. When he reaches 20, level 20, he gets 25 focus and 5 skill points. 5 skill points is kind of amazing, especially because Gandalf has so many good places to put those. He is primarily a focus commander, so you'll see the majority of his stat points get allocated that way as his base value and increasing with each level. But let's go get a look at the talents that are on Gandalf, because this is what's really wild. You will want to start with the Grey. The Grey is phenomenal. After the commander deals damage, one allied unit has a 50% chance of recovering 100% hit points. That is a nice sized heal. Now, there's only a 50% chance, but every time he does an attack or does damage, you have a chance of triggering this, which means you want to have as many ways to deal damage as possible for having more opportunities to trigger this heal. I'm going to talk about how you can do that in the equipment section. And up top, you've got fleeting movements. 2 allied units have a 75% chance of avoiding the next instance of damage. Consider only having 2 allied units in his march so that both allied units get the avoidance. That's kind of crazy, right? Also, blindside against 1 enemy target. Deal focus damage, 114%, modified, by the way, by your focus stat, and stun the target for 1 round. So even if you just put 1 point in this, which I think is pretty reasonable, you get the stun, and that's really solid. From there, if I go to the bottom tree, you've got something that makes it so that you take less damage. Against all enemies, their damage is reduced for the first 4 rounds of the fight by 5.8% modified by the focus stat. That's because I have it at level 8. It'll go up and up as well. So this makes it so that at the start of the fight, the enemy does less damage. And by the way, when you max this, you are going to get 3 allied units having avoidance. So I guess there is a reason you could have still 3 units in the march here, because you are going to have all 3 of them avoid the first instance of damage. But if we look at these little sub-skills, this Free Peoples is amazing. Men, elves, dwarves, and hobbits. Damage received. At max, it's minus 14%. Dude, this is so, so powerful. And it's so flexible. That's a lot of different races, okay? And then down below, in the first 2 rounds, all allied units gain initiative. I believe that means they attack first and have a chance to attack a second time in the round. So for the first 2 rounds, you're having an opportunity to attack again. I mean, you do a lot of front-loaded damage, which is pretty cool. And you'll want to keep that in mind, by the way, with equipment for things that boost the first couple rounds of combat. Honestly, at even just the unlock loyalty levels 1 through 2, Gandalf is insane. And I mentioned loyalty level 1 because you definitely want an accessory for Gandalf, okay? You're going to want to have that unlocked, but he's very strong. And he only gets better. At loyalty level 3, he has a stun ability. Now that stun ability, all it would take is 1 point, and you can now inflict stun. This is on round 1. Against 2 enemy targets, you inflict stun, and you reduce the defense of the enemy for 3 rounds. So this is not a periodic ability that happens repeatedly. This is something that happens only on round 1. And against 2 targets, you try to stun them out the gate and then reduce their defense. And when this is maxed, you get more focus. But if you look at the bottom tree, you can get something called Surge. Deals focus damage twice, modified by the focus stat, and each is a separate attack, choosing a different target. So I wonder if each of these attacks has a chance to trigger the Grey, which means just ridiculous amounts of healing. Yes, Gandalf does ridiculous amounts of healing and is insanely strong. Now, up top, you've got an ability called Pipeweed Connoisseur. Classic Gandalf right there, reducing your might and increasing your focus. Everything he does seems to scale with focus, so that's straight up a win in my estimation. The only thing that I would say is kind of a downside about Gandalf is that he's very tanky. So maybe when I get this ability over here, I'll actually be doing more damage, but with my Gandalf army, I find myself frequently pulling into draws rather than like actually just like defeating the enemy. So keep in mind that you'll want to pack some extra punch with him, even though you'll be reducing that sort of overall army damage by reducing your might. I think you gain a lot of scalability of his skills by boosting your focus. And what's weird is that at loyalty level 5, yeah, these are cool, but these also feel like kind of niche counter abilities. And I want to explain that for a moment. The first ability makes it so that all allied units, for the first 3 instances of damage received, will reduce the damage they take by a certain amount, okay? And it's a percentage modified by your focus stat. And, by the way, when you max this, the debuff effect comes once again, so I suspect that you get 3 rounds of benefit and then another 3 rounds of benefit. So the White Council ability just makes you very, very tanky, reducing the damage you take. And you combine that with the stunning and the healing, and it just seems like, oh yeah, and the damage taken reduction. And you've just got a very tanky army. Now, I mentioned that some of what's going on here at Loyalty 5, though, is fairly niche, and it is, like damage to orcs, urukai, and trolls. If you're fighting those, this is amazing. If you're not, it does nothing for you. So respecking him in and out of having this, and also up top, making it so that focus, burn, poison damage received by the army is greatly reduced. 7% per level, so 50% overall, is amazing if you're fighting something that does those things. This also could be really good for fighting a Balrog. Like if you actually had Gandalf high enough loyalty and enough points, you could probably make a healing build and fight a Balrog or dragon and just do insanely well by using high alert to reduce the burn damage that you receive, and then the Grey healing and some of this other stuff kind of going on down over here. So Gandalf's talent options make him amazing. He's good at low loyalty, and he gets really great options at higher levels of loyalty, which I have found him to just be extremely impressive. He's kind of my number 2 commander right now, and all of that might get mixed up once I'm actually in the mock battling phase of my account progression. This is my restart account for those of you who haven't seen that before. I'll have a card up in the top for the restart playlist if you want to check that out, and also the video that explains sort of how you progress through different stages of the game. If you want to see that, I'll remind you at the end of the video. So, Gandalf the Grey, his equipment. I've got some interesting options here, and the most important option actually is the weapon. The reason I mention that is that, okay, I'm using a legendary weapon that happens to be pretty good for him, but the key is this Mind Split Affix right over here. The Mind Split Affix makes it so that after the commander performs a normal attack, you have a 50% chance of dealing additional damage based off of focus, okay? And it is modified by your focus damage. This is huge. This is absolutely phenomenal. And the reason is that it can trigger healing from the Grey, separate from all the other attacks that you've been doing. And yes, I can prove that to you. I'm going to show you 2 pictures here. The first, you can see Gandalf the Grey launches Mind Spirit. So Gandalf is attacking, okay? And the Grey did not affect Gandalf. What that means is that in this particular report, Mind Split is the affix on the weapon. The Mind Split did damage, but it didn't trigger the heal in this instance. So the Grey did not affect. That means the heal didn't happen. You lost the dice roll. You lost the 50-50. But in this screenshot, here you can see again, Gandalf launches Mind Split. He does his damage, and Gandalf triggers the Grey, the healing effect. Okay, and the Grey healed a target. And you can see in this same screenshot, this is different from his regular attack. Gandalf the Grey attacked, he triggered the Grey, and there was a heal. And then the mind split happened. So this is a perfect example showing you that in the same turn, he did his normal attack. He also had mind split trigger, and you got healing in both instances, or I did, which was absolutely phenomenal. Now, there is something beyond just mind split that does this. I believe it's called Flay. Let me show you in game. If we just get a look at some of the weapons over here, I used to have one that had Flay. Let's see here. Smite is a modifier, deals an additional damage, focus damage, effect modified by the focus stat. So maybe it's Smite. But there are different effects here that give you extra attacks. At least there's a chance of it. And those are really, really good. In fact, this one, Smite, might in some ways be better because this is a 50-50 chance of performing an extra attack, Mind Split, whereas Smite happens every turn. So in that case, Gandalf the Grey would have the chance to heal something every turn. It's just, okay, that is not a modifier I happen to have on this legendary weapon. And by the way, most people don't know this, but if you wanted to see what modifiers are available for something that you have, you can go into your inventory, tap the little icon in the upper right for that item, tap the, menu listing on the left, and it shows you the different affixes that you could have, right? So for this particular legendary sword, Mind Split is kind of amazing. It's a lot of focus damage here. And I guess the only thing that would make it stronger would be if it happened all the time. And if I just get a look at the maximum refined stats, well, unfortunately, the maximum refined stats don't boost your chance of doing that additional attack. So perhaps a weapon that attacks every turn would actually be better, like the one I was just showing you and can't seem to find down over here. Every turn, it seems like you do an extra attack. That actually is very good. And if I actually strengthened this cutlass, it probably would be better than the sword. So just something to keep in mind as you're doing your equipment. If we look at the other equipment choices that I've made for my Gandalf here, the blue chest is actually really good. I went with a bunch of focus and army hit points. Now, the reason I want army hit points, and I want to reduce the damage that my melee units take, is that increasing my hit points presumably makes it so that my heals are potentially bigger. Is that true? Is that not true? I just figure that because I do so much healing and I reduce the damage I take so much, that tankiness was a good play. So focus, melee health, that's what I went with there. The helmet, this is a little bit of a grab bag. You could reduce the damage that you're taking with your helmet. You could also go in the opposite direction and say, dude, I'm already tanky enough. I need to deal more damage. So something like this Trapper's Hood might in some ways be a better choice, increasing the ranged attack that you do. But one thing is for sure, you want to be stacking focus wherever you can find it, prioritizing that over everything else. And I think a worn out smoking pipe is possibly the best accessory you could be using here. This makes it so that every 2 rounds, all allies recover some amount of health, 6.3% in this case, modified by the focus stat. And you're going to have tons of focus, and it gives tons of focus. And if we just get a look at what the other options would have been for that pipe, we'll go over here. It's on Gandalf. We see the options. Every 2 rounds, taking a heal seems better than resource gathering, better than dwarf army speed, better than benefiting just my goat riders. So yeah, no, that's the modifier I want on that pipe, man. That's the one. That's the combo. More healing, more tankiness, totally insane. So that's what I would put on your Gandalf. Now, if you want to unlock Gandalf, there's a number of things you can do. If you make your way over to the tavern and you smash Recruit Commander, there is an item that is only available for Gandalf. You hit Gandalf the Grey. You can see right over here, Old Vineyards are only usable on Gandalf the Grey. And there's more. There's good news, which is that you get this by doing one of the chests that is available to you throughout Season 1. If you go to your Matham, although I don't have it anymore because I already maxed it, there is a chest that you can complete if you use your Matham coins, where you guaranteed get some of these respect items that are used for Gandalf, and you should absolutely prioritize doing that and unlocking your Gandalf before you do other things, in my opinion. So yes, focus on your Gandalf, get him unlocked, put your coins there, and start working with Gandalf. Get him to loyalty 1. My recommendation also, when you go into your rare treasures and you set your wish list, is that you set the respect item for Gandalf over here as well, because you're going to want to crank up his respect, in part because you get more points to work with, but also you really want to pass loyalty level 1, ideally getting to at least loyalty level 3 to unlock that second tier of talents that you can use with him. Yeah, man. Gandalf is very strong. I think that at some point, people will have a lot of commanders that counter healing, and then and only then will we see things might get a little bit dicey for Gandalf, but he's got a lot of options. There are some other builds you might be able to try, moving points out of healing. But even then, the things that cut healing don't typically cut healing like every round for the entire fight. So you're probably not as hard countered as you might think, but time will tell as I use Gandalf more. If you found this guide helpful, throw a like on here and consider subscribing. As I mentioned earlier, I've got guides for how to progress through your season, including when it is I think you should go all in on mock battling. I'll have a card up in the top. You can check that out by pushing the little info button. And until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies.